It's important to have info groups. I think they're important, but you need a community, and in your community, it needs to be harmonized. And what I mean by that is I need to see you're a human. I want to know about your family. There is a portion of time that people are coming into your community because they know you a little bit, and now they're ready to get to know you on a deeper level. And we're going to build that trust and relationship, because guess what happens is that's where the conversion will come in. When they're ready to order, they're going to pick you. They're going to choose you. Their relationship is with you.
Introducing The Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hi, and welcome back to The Vixen Voice. Today, our guest is Lyndsi Weise. I'm super excited to have her on here. She is a Facebook group strategist for social sellers, coaches, and online business owners. And her proprietary Facebook course is the Facebook group method. So the really cool thing and funny thing about Lyndsi and I is that we met in a Facebook group. So imagine that. So Lyndsi, super excited to have you here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Good. So we're going to kind of dive in. I love to start by just asking, we see this beautiful, multifaceted woman sitting here before us. Would you mind sharing maybe a pivotal time or moment in your life that you feel really made you who you are today?
Sure. Ooh, what a question. I guess I'll start with a little bit of my story to kind of go there with that. So I grew up in Chicago. And I had these like dreams of being a doctor, a lawyer. Like I had Big Ten school, like all of that stuff type of dreams. And so I've always been that ambitious type. But I ended up going to college, doing the thing. And I was in a corporate job, 9 to 5. And I would say the moments were probably in there because the type of environment I was in was, there's a little bit of toxicity that I worked in. You didn't know what you were driving into every day. My commute was 1 hour in, 1 hour home. That can be a lot when Chicago weather gets bad. And you didn't know if the boss was going to be happy, if she was going to be cranky. And when she was not happy, the whole team knew it, and we felt it. And there were many times where it was very stressful. I would be up late at night, just very nervous about what my day was going to look like. And definitely had those Sundays where I was like, oh my gosh, in a whole nother week. And I was thinking to myself, like, I want to have this degree and I want to climb the ladder. And I was looking around for work. And I mean, I was like, I knew the sales side of the company they were the ones who were out talking to people. They were getting these really awesome bonus opportunities. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I could do that. I would totally do that. Or I would love to climb into the management. And no opportunity was being presented my way.
Wow.
And I was pretty miserable. And it came down to me. I remember thinking, like, at the time I was trying to sell jewelry that I was homemaking online, and I was playing around on Facebook, trying to do something. And it just was in those moments that really helped me realize, like, I am willing to work hard. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But being kind of stuck in an environment like this is not it. And so I hadn't had the courage at that point yet to just quit and like walk away. But what happened was the company decided to move to Ohio, and you could either go with them or stay back. And I was like, bye. So I think just being in that type of a work environment was my clue of like, this is not for you. I mean, I wasn't even a mother at the time, and I am today. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I going to take them to their sports and their events? And how am I going to have they get mad if you're walking in a minute late. Like it was just so tense. So those tense moments really led me to be like, I will do whatever for myself, I'm out there willing to work hard. And so from there, they left and I hadn't found my thing yet, but I was relieved.
Yeah. So you're happy to get out of that situation. Did you go into like another corporate job after that first, or did you go into another job, or did you go straight to being your own boss?
So I had a little bit of time that I spent looking around, and everything was 1 to 2 hours away from where I lived, everything. And it was like, this won't even work. I was in the midst of, I had just gotten married when all of this happened. Like it was happening and I was getting married within 2 weeks of all of this. And so there was a lot going on and I was looking around for work, but more worried about just getting through the wedding. My mom had a recruiting company at the time, and I got in there for a little bit and spent some time helping her recruit people. So there was a little bit of that going on, but here I was on Facebook, and I had been introduced to a program that I was looking on the page. They have the like pages on Facebook, like a business page. And from there, someone found me. And back in the day, you could like reach out to people. You can't see anyone on those pages anymore, but that was a thing 12 years ago. And she sent me a message and she was like, hey, I saw you liked this page and I want to let you know that I help run groups for health goals and things like that. But she sent me the coldest message that everybody cringes over, like all the links, the whole novel. And I remember thinking to myself, like, is this a robot? Is this a real person? And so because of that, I was interested in just like, is this a real human? Like, what just happened? She was super pretty. And I was like, huh? And I started following her, and every single week she'd tell the same story about how she was working on health goals and how she was able to get paid for doing this, and how like it was payday and they were going shopping and she was so excited. And she was like painting a picture of literally what I was craving when I was back in the corporate space. And I remember the first couple of times I was like, yeah, okay. Like, really? And I was so skeptical. And then week after week, she would continue to paint that picture, tell that story on Facebook. And privately, she was like, you should really do this. Like, this is totally your thing. You should totally do this with us. And I was just like, you're crazy. I don't know what this is. It seems too good to be true type of thinking. But 8 months into her consistently doing that, I finally was like, okay, clearly this works, because who talks about something like this for 8 months? So I was like, okay, tell me what I need to do and I will do it. How do I get started? And so from there, I signed up and started my first business, which was in network marketing, direct sales, whatever you want to call that. We call it social selling in 2023.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Do you mind me asking, what were you selling to begin with? Was it health supplements?
Yeah. Shakes
That's what I figured.
And workouts and things like that. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. And so that was your introduction to the group side of Facebook, right? Which is crazy because I didn't even realize there were groups 12 years ago, right? That definitely is not what I was doing at that time.
Yeah. The story behind the group is that I sign up, and if you've been around that industry, the first thing you're told is to go send 100 messages and get the word out and launch and do the things. And I was like, okay, like I know we need to do that, but there's a disconnect in this concept of like what she sent me. I'm not going to do that. And so I created a group, and that was my like gap, my bridged gap. Cause I thought, okay, well, if I invite them into a group where I'm sharing value and serving, that is how I start my conversation with them. That is how we're going to do this. And that is what I'm going to teach the team that I build to do as well. Because if I don't, people are going to freeze up, because that nobody wants to be sold to. And I believe every salesperson, every social seller out there, I believe every single intention is pretty good. They're just missing an actual like really solid guide for how to get things going. And I know you're excited. You love the product. You're like, yeah, I'm so excited. So putting up a post is great. Emailing people is great. But there is a part in business where you need to have conversations with people, because you do hit a point where you have to talk to cold market people. And so I was like, all right, let's create a group and let's see what happens. So that is where the group started 12 years ago.
Love it.
And they're still doing well today.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So walk us through your transition. So you started the group at first for your own personal selling and to build a team, right? Mm-hmm. And do you still have that team under you? Or are you still with that same company doing the direct selling? Amazing. And then you were like, okay, I'm going to take things that I learned and that were intuitive to me, and I'm going to teach others how to do that. So when did you evolve to that point?
Yeah, well, that was a very long process because I was laser focused on that business. And I had worked with a business coach who, at the time, I was climbing in the ranks. And something that was so cool about the Facebook group method and strategy is I was not a mother yet, but in my first year and a half, 2 years, I got pregnant with twins. I went through an infertility journey, and all of a sudden I'm pregnant with twins. I'm on bed rest and things are very different, but I'm still trying to build this. And because I had implemented the groups, because I had trained the team that was signing up with me how I do things, they were able to continue doing their thing while I was going through what I was going through. So things were able to work very well, and it was able to save me time and energy, which at the time when I was in it, it didn't all register, but I had hit the 50th spot in the whole country, or in the whole network. We were only in one country at the time that year. And I hit this like high level, and I was like, they were celebrating me, and they were like, they called it this elite status. And I was literally going to give birth to my boys. And it was just, what did I just do? I have no idea what just happened. And it helped my team like really see, wow, okay, let's keep doing this. So we're climbing, we're doing, the years are passing. I'm raising these boys. And I'm hitting, I'm climbing ranks, and I have this business coach, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have no idea, because the company had asked me to speak, and I'm like, no. I don't have anything to share. I have nothing to give. And they were like, okay. And she was like, you have to have something. What are you doing? What's going on? Like, how are these people growing teams, growing their bit? What are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, I trained them to do it with a group. And she was like, oh, why aren't you sharing that? And I'm like, I was in it. So the realization came a couple of years after I'd really set that system up. And to be honest, I didn't even realize I had set a system up because I was just so in it. And I had these twins, but things were just great. I mean, certainly challenging, hard work, no doubt, but things like they had a system in place. And when you're building a team, you need a system for them. And I'm thankful that I randomly came up with this idea, because I don't know where we'd be without the groups today. Yeah. So she asked me that quite a few years ago, and I started teaching and talking about it on some team calls and just doing like stuff like that. And it wasn't honestly until this year, April, so about 60 days ago or so, that I launched the course. I finally was like, okay, it's time to share this with other social sellers, other network marketers, and online coaches started asking about it. I've got a physical therapist in the program. Like, they really are like, I think this can work even beyond that. So we launched in April, and now I'm here, and I've been coaching them and helping them get their system and their method in place for their business.
That's amazing. I love that. Thanks for sharing your story. So I wanted to unpack a couple of things you said. So number one, that you had built a business that could continue without you, even through the infertility journey, being pregnant. I'm sure you were very careful during your pregnancy, right? Being pregnant with twins after what you'd been through. And you were kind of just trying to make it through and focus on your family, right? And I love that you built this business that sustained itself, that your team was supported, because coaching female entrepreneurs, a lot of their fear is, yeah, I'd love to make more money, but at what cost, right? They feel that, oh, I have less time with my family, I have this or that. But I love what you're talking about, because I'm always like, no, we just have to leverage your time better, right? We have to decide what's important to you, what to focus on. And you're really further down the road with this, but having built this system, built this team, I love the story that the business could carry on, not really without you, but with you in a lesser capacity, let's say, for a period of time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, what it did was it just freed up the messages that are the basic questions of, how am I talking to a person? How am I doing? What about this? What about, like, it freed a little bit of that up so they could move forward in doing their part. So, yeah.
I love that. Awesome. And one other thing I heard you say is, when you were in the midst of it, you really didn't realize how great what you had was, right? Which I'm a certified high performance coach, and most high performers do not reflect back. And let's just say they don't realize what a badass they are, right? Because we don't take that time to pause and say, okay, I built this great thing. Let me, one, celebrate. Let's just celebrate our wins. And then two, let me reflect back and see how I've gotten where I am. So one, I can duplicate the success going forward. And two, you took that to another level where you're actually teaching other people how to do what you've done successfully. So I just kind of wanted to pause for a moment there. And then I want to ask you another question. So since then, have you started celebrating your wins? Like, do you have a way to reflect on your day, your week, your life? Like, share with us if you have a way to celebrate your wins.
Yeah, I was always like one of those, there's this is a totally different topic, but there's this concept of burnout. And I was one of those who always knew to take a day on the weekend and just breathe. I love it. And so when it comes to the wins, same idea was when I would hit a goal that I set, I would celebrate that day and then move along. I will say I've learned to really look at every win on all levels versus just when I hit the goal. So I've learned to really just bring that back down to even the smallest stuff. And so, yeah, it's funny how then we're like, okay, on to the next.
I know. So, yeah. That's why I got in the habit. I've been doing this for a year and a half, like keeping track of my wins throughout the day. Because, it's always the difficulties and the hard things that occupy the majority of your head when you look back at the day. So I have an app where I keep track of my wins. And then at night, I'll read back and I'm like, oh, that was a pretty cool day. Like, I didn't realize that. And I just think it's so important. And I try to do that with my team too. We start every meeting like, hey, what are your wins? Same with clients. So I love that you've incorporated that into your life and your business, because I think it's incredibly important. You can be the most successful person in the world, and if you never reflect to give yourself kudos and celebrate, like, you can still be unhappy, right?
Right. So. No, it's true. It's true, because there's sometimes when business has hard seasons, and that's just part of it. It's part of what's going to come. And I had to really be like, yeah, but it's still really great. Because there were periods of time where I was like, this is really hard. It's really challenging. But then I again, take a step back and I'm like, okay, I could still be at the 9 to 5, driving an hour.
Well, and that's why your why is so important, right? We have to constantly reflect on why we're doing things. And I call it the entrepreneurial roller coaster, which is actually a book that Darren Hardy wrote. But yes, I mean, the roller coaster is real. And those of us that are true entrepreneurs, we actually absolutely love the ride, but sometimes it gets really tough, even for true entrepreneurs with the mindset like that. Or what I find more often, and I don't know if you feel this, is I feel I'm fine and everything's good, but I don't realize how much pressure I'm taking on, because at this point, I'm just used to it, right? So I think it's no big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through where I took on so much pressure, and then I've been through where I've had to go through major healing and regulate the nervous system. And now, honestly, I did a lot of that pressure. And then when I learned about regulating your nervous system that I didn't even realize we can like cause trauma to just from being stressed and not releasing things from the body. That was a lot of years of work that I got into healing on it. But what I'll say is like, I went on a healing journey for a solid year plus. Good. It is part of what did help me launch this business because I had no like emotional and mental capacity for a period of time because it was just so built up. Mm-hmm. And when I understood like, we're releasing, getting this all out, and it opens up so much energy and space. Now I'm like, what else can I do? Because you have so much mental and emotional capacity. Yeah. So I would say definitely people, women, especially women, because guys are very different. We have to really take care of ourselves first and foremost in order to have the mental, emotional capacity to build a business.
Yeah. I remember a time, it was 2012, and I remember just, had gone through a couple of things with business and my personal life. And I remember waking up just like, gosh, I feel numb. Like I can't remember the last time I felt an emotion, like either joy or pain. And on Bravo, I saw someone go to a spiritual healer. So I was like, maybe I need a spiritual healer. Like I had no idea. So I had a client who was a holistic doctor, and I was like, hey, do you know a spiritual healer? And anyway, so 2012, that started my whole spiritual journey, which has evolved hugely through today. And it's really in 2020, I mean, it helped me keep my sanity. But I agree with you. Yeah. You have to wake up and you have that like face the music moment where you're like, do I want to continue to live this way or do I want to live a deeper life? And I think most of us become entrepreneurs or business owners because we want that deeper life, right? Everyone thinks you're in it for the money. And trust me, making money is nice. Abundance is a great thing. But usually we're in it for the freedom or the creativity or bringing value to people. And I just always recommend know your why. So you've been successful in your online business for 12 plus years, right? Mm-hmm. What tips would you give a woman who is just starting maybe a side hustle online or a full-blown business or looking to step away from corporate and do this? Like, what are some tips you would give starting out?
Yeah. So the first thing is in order to have a business start to make anything work, we need customers. Mm-hmm. And so customers come from building community these days. That's where it's at right now. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And I mean, it's always been that way, but it really is. People are craving connection. They're craving community. And so the bias in me is like, make sure you have a group because that's where community is created, but it will help you to get your message across and get connected with people. So that's one of the first things we have to think about is like, okay, we need customers because I feel like you could sit here, and I've had some conversations with other female entrepreneurs who are prepping and they're planning and they're doing all this pre-work. And I'm like, why aren't we just launching it? Like get it out there and let's work on in fact, I launched Facebook group prompts last night, like just some prompts. Very simple, $29, and everyone wants them. And I didn't even have it ready yet. And I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. But I was just like, you launch first, like get the word out, see who's ready to talk, see who's interested. Because if you plan all this, you create all this stuff and you don't have anyone there to buy, what's the missing piece? You needed to create the community. We need the people who are going to be excited for what it is you're going to put out there. Or you're going to get in the messenger and you're going to have to do the thing that nobody wants to do. And so that's like what I would say is really start creating your community now and really focus in on what it is you're going to share in that community The content, of course, is everything, right? Because content's what's going to lead to your conversations. But, and you need to just determine like the branding in that. And yes, we could talk about colors and get into all of that. But what I mean by that is just like, what is it that you are going to be selling? And what could you be sharing right now to start showing up in that space as an authority in that topic? Like maybe it's a gut health program or whatever that looks like. So we're going to start talking about that in our community so people know like, okay, that's what this is about, versus the new mom who's like, no, we're going to be talking about postpartum, all the things, right? Like there's so many different spaces. So I say that's the first thing you want to get down before you put out your offer.
Well, and what I love about this is to really have a good offer, you have to know your audience, right? So, I mean, a successful business person meets their clients, their community, their customers where they're at instead of saying, hey, this is the best thing in the world for you. So by starting the conversation in this group, it almost allows them to do marketing research that then they can turn into provide a better product, provide a better service, get their offer right. So I actually love this idea of starting the community first.
Yep. And that's where this tiny little offer, what do we call them? Like smaller offer, where I was talking with the group and really figuring out like the disconnect, like how come their groups are quiet? How come their groups are, that's a big problem, is like, it's quiet, it's crickets. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but what are you posting? Because it's only going to wake up if you are bringing the energy. So my question, was around that. And I found that the most common answer was content. And I thought to myself, okay, if I created some prompts, would that be helpful to you? And they were like, yeah. And I overthought the whole thing because I knew it was going to be super like a $20, $30, $40, something like that. And I was like, I'm not a Canva person. I have somebody to help me with that. And I was like, I really want to give them Canva and all this greatness. And then I finally came back to earth and I'm like, that's not my strength. I'm just going to give the prompts. So I hadn't like fully gotten it set, but I just posted it out there to my community and they're like, I need the link. I want it. And I was like, okay, I'm not ready, but okay, let me get a link together. And so it's important to have that versus me having it all ready, having this whole thing prepared and then being like, not interested. And I'm like, great. Yeah. Right. I think it's important to just know it is something they're going to be interested in. I mean, that was a mindset for the Facebook group method too. I was like, why would anyone want to hear what I have to say about that? Until some ladies that I'd worked with that are big in the Instagram world were like, nobody teaches this. Nobody teaches Facebook. I need to learn. I don't understand. And I was like, oh, okay. That was part of what helped me be like, wow, I could step into this role because people really do need help in creating a system. So,
and they were asking you. So your first tip was to start building a community. What other tips would you have?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is you need the community. We got to have the people, and you need to be thinking about consistently having new people in the community. This is another sticking point that I'm seeing. And growth is growth. I don't care if it's 5 new people. It doesn't have to be 500. Like growth is growth, but we need to have some kind of system in place where it's like, how many new people joined my community this week? We need to keep growing it. Right. And then what are we doing inside of it that's serving them is really important. And I always say, you could call this tip 3 if you really want. I always say your content has to be harmonized depending on your audience. If you just come into this group and you're selling, discount codes, this is on sale, this is on special, you're never going to have the community you want. It's sure, you're going to have some of your customer people might be like, oh, good, it's on sale, but it's not going to build like you want it to build.
You're going to burn through your audience at that point.
Yeah. Those groups serve their purpose. I mean, it's important to have info groups. I think they're important, but you need a community, and in your community, it needs to be harmonized. And what I mean by that is I need to see you're a human. I want to know about your family. I want to know, like, there is a portion of time that people are coming into your community because they know you a little bit, and now they're ready to get to know you on a deeper level. And we're going to build that trust and relationship, because guess what happens is that's where the conversion will come in. When they're ready to order, they're going to pick you. They're going to choose you. Their relationship is with you. So to me, your content has to have this, like, right now, as we are filming this, we're going into a holiday weekend. And so to me, it's like, what are you doing for the holiday? Let's just be human. It's like, are you traveling? Are you with the family? And then there's that other part of it where I'm going to be like, oh, by the way, like, I have put together a content prompt plan for you, and let them know. And then amidst the week, I've been live in there. I've shared tips. I've posted some other prompts to help. I've shared ways for them to generate leads. Like, I've brought some value to them that is building that authority piece in the business. But also I asked them, like, what are your favorite flip-flops? Because I have a puppy and he literally tore mine up. And I'm like, okay, where am I going? Like, what should I get next? And so it's a conversation piece where they can give their input. People want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to give their opinion. And it helps them to get to know you, because now you've got a conversation going with them. So that is one of the most important things you can do. Or you can go message a bunch of people, and it's important to have private conversations. It can drain energy. So we have to just be mindful at the same time. They are important, though. That's what the third thing is that I would do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so on your harmonized content, I'm betting that you have a quasi schedule, you have kind of a system for that. And then you also probably do some impromptu posts. Like, I mean, obviously you didn't plan for your dog to eat your flip-flops, right? So then it's kind of like, okay, here's what I'm feeling today.
Yeah. I did not plan. The ones that got delivered literally yesterday, he already got to, and I was like, okay, this isn't working.
So, oh no. So now you need tips for how to keep your flip-flops away from the dog, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I literally had him off for not even 2 minutes, and he got to him, and I'm like, how? And they're not Old Navy $2. So I'm like, okay, we need to try again.
That's so funny, because I moved to Nashville in January, and it's summertime as we record this. And I'm like, I cannot find my favorite flip-flop since I moved, and it's driving me crazy. So I actually have the same problem. I'm like, gosh, I love those. Now I have to go get a new pair. Yeah. It's a major issue in the summertime. I don't like my feet covered in summertime. So it's nice.
I know.
I know. Awesome. Oh, okay. So I love this. So the 3 tips again, we're building a community, consistently having new people come into the community, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that. And I think it's also important to keep a pulse on that. So how often do you actually watch that? Because I personally like weekly scorecards in my business. I mean, I'm not going to change everything from a 1-week trend. But if I see it 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, it's better than waiting a month or a quarter. So like, what do you recommend when you're watching this flow?
Yeah. So in the course, I have a growth tracker for you, and it's weekly.
Oh, I love it.
So it's for you to be like, okay, because that's another thing is if you're doing all the things and you're still not seeing any increase in your sales, like nothing new is changing, we need to be like, okay, now it's time to grow the group. Like, this is where it's time we need more people. Because there is a point in time where it's like, okay, you have a lot of people, like we're good. And there's a point in time where it's like, okay, we need to grow the group. So yeah, I have the tracker, and we have it weekly to look at and see where we're at and what that looks like. So
I like that. I think that's great feedback. So building your community, consistently having new people. And the third thing is making sure your content is harmonized. So I love that. Great tips. Awesome. Yeah. So how different would you say that your systems for Facebook groups are today versus when you started 12 years ago?
Yeah. So, 12 years ago, we didn't have all the features we have. So we worked with what we had. There was no live video. I don't even know if there was video. I think you had to go to YouTube, create the video, and then you'd have to post the YouTube link in the group. I'm pretty sure that's how it went back in the day. So we had none of that. We didn't have reels. We didn't have stories. We didn't have anything like that. We just had the group and photos. So all we could do was post photos and text. I don't even think we had emojis back then.
No, I don't think so.
So that was it. And then we had group growth has always been the same. Mm-hmm. And then content has changed over time. Mm-hmm. Although it's been fairly similar, I've just been a little bit more intentional about it because it has become the king of everything when it comes to your business. But the thing that was a big game changer that everybody is like super intrigued by, that I've honestly thought about, maybe I would separately even teach this at some point if necessary, is custom events in your group. Mm-hmm. And coming from the space of selling shakes and things like that, I come from the space of the free water challenge and the free this and that challenge, where great, now we've got 20 new people in our group, but does anything get purchased on the back end? No, because we're just drinking water and yay. No. So I was around when groups were going crazy. I was around before they were going crazy. I was around when they were going crazy, because there was a period of time where everybody was using groups and people got sick of them. And I went through a period of time where I was like, oh, these don't work anymore. No, I got to learn Instagram. What is happening? But we're good to go now. We had a little short period of like, everybody was adding people and Facebook had to change it. And in that time was also these free challenges being run, and you were seeing them being posted everywhere. And I was like, none of this stuff is working. Okay. Like, this is not converting. And so I was like, what is the deal? And what I thought about was like, yeah, it's not customized. It's just basic, like drink water, hydration challenge is not a thing. That's a boring, yay, we got our hydration in. No, I'm not buying your stuff. Why would I? Because all we focused was water. And so I had to like think about like, okay, what is it that I am doing to help myself on my health journey, and what makes me different from all the others, right? And I was like I burn everything I cook. Literally just 2 days ago, burnt the spaghetti squash in the oven because I forgot about it. It's just the most minor things, but I burn it all. And I'm like, the eggs for breakfast, like everything gets burnt. Everything. Yeah. And so my husband's the cook in the house, but I asked one day on Facebook, like, if I were to show you how I'm eating healthy with very minimal cooking, is that something you'd be interested in? And just, I had like so many people, and I was like, okay, that is intentionally a custom event that's being intentionally put together, because I'm going to actually walk you through what I'm doing. And on the back end, if you want to use the products I'm using and things like that, you're going to buy them. And so my game plan was right up front. I'm very forward with, this is what I do for a living. We're in this challenge. Here's the expectation. So anyways, that's just something, just so you're not listening to this and thinking, but then you just come in and sell on the back end. And it's like, no, they know ahead of time, like day one, they know. And so I walk you through in the course with students. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different custom event. And we spend some time like figuring out what's day one look like for you. What's day two, how many days? Some people want 5, some people want 3, some people want 1 day. And so that has been the biggest like innovation, is taking the free challenge that may or may not convert and moving it into an actual customized challenge that can bring you people that will sign up. So that's a whole module in the course.
I like it.
And it was great for me personally in my business, and it works very well if you really put the work in to implement it.
Yep.
So yeah.
So that's awesome, Lyndsi. So what I heard in everything you shared about like customized, because at first when you're like customized challenge, that sounds kind of like, oh, what is that? But the magic sauce that I heard is you made it personal, something about your life. And obviously you worked in the products that you were there to sell, right? So that was part of the challenge. People could choose that or not. But obviously if they picked up on that, they're like, oh, well, I need to get these products to make this easier. So I love that. That's really great thinking and putting a lot of thought in and preparing ahead of time, which is so important anytime you're showing up in front of people. And I think everyone put this misnomer out there that social media is now just all spontaneous and here I am. And there should be an element of that, but there's no reason. I mean, I always think of everything. I mean, just like having this podcast, if I have a one-on-one consultation with someone, if I'm showing up on social, like how am I bringing value to my audience, right? Like, what do I need to do to bring value? Because if I'm not bringing value, in my opinion, there's no point in doing it. So you're talking about really planning out, like what real value can I bring and how can it benefit our company in the long run as well? I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And this can work for coaches as well.
Yep.
I'm finding it works really well with the course, me coming in and creating an event and doing something very custom for them. So it doesn't have to just be for products.
Yeah.
It really, the whole point of them is it's like the appetizer experience of working with you. And they're like, oh, this is what it's going to be like if I work with you further. So that's really the point of it, and just really customizing that so they get a good feel of what that's like. And could you charge for those events? Sure. If you want to do something like that where it's worth the charge, certainly. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned helping coaches. Earlier, you mentioned having a business coach. I love to go here when I have coaches on because you're now coaching other people. You've built a team, you coach your team, right? Because one time I was doing a video and my friend was in the room and she was like, should you talk about having a coach when you're a coach? I'm like, absolutely. I have like 4 coaches. Like, I mean, it's so crazy that people are like, why do I need a coach? And when you think about it, the best athletes in the world have a coach, right? The best CEOs in the world have a coach. Like, I don't really know who doesn't need a coach, but it's something so new. And people are just like, oh, you're a coach. Do you need a coach? So just share with us, like maybe areas of your life that you found coaching was valuable. I know you mentioned you have a business coach. Like, have you had coaches in other areas of your life?
Yeah. So my first coach, she was a business coach, and she's more mindset, but a little mixture. Like, it wasn't so much strategy as much as it was her helping me walk through some blocks, but also helping me see, like, hey, what are you doing? Everybody's succeeding. We're seeing, the people who are choosing to show up and work are seeing growth. What are you doing in there? Like, just helping me get that pulled out. And then she's always done a great job of making me really like think deeper on, even she called me, so funny. She called me like right in March, right before I was getting ready to do all of this, or was it February? It was February or March. And I hadn't worked with her in a long time. I stay up to date with her. Like, we talk often, but she literally called me and was like, I was talking about how I was getting ready to do this and how like all the fears that were coming with it. And I'm like, oh, I just don't know if anybody wants to hear like those fears that we might all have before we start. And I just remember her like giving me this speech of, we've had this conversation many times. And I think she's like, I think God's nudging you to finally launch your stuff. Like, let's go. She's like, I have been talking to you about this for like 5 years, and we need to, she's like, last time you were doing something else and you were doing this, and you have yet to put anything out there. So it's time. And so it's kind of funny that she and I have that relationship. But with that said, I'm currently working with a marketing coach, really understanding copywriting, marketing a little bit better. So a lot of strategy, and it's specific, a lot of Instagram specific stuff, just kind of figuring that out since I am really good on the Facebook end of things. And honestly, like, I have Instagram pretty well figured out, but she really helps me just like hone in, really pull my own strength out. And then I've worked with a coach who does hypnotherapy and breath work type of stuff. That was when I was going through the healing process and just releasing, like understanding how to release stuff out of your body through your breath. And I actually went and got certified in that as well. And I haven't really done a whole lot with it, but I just have the knowledge. I realized like I wanted to get into it, and I thought, yeah, my thing is business though. Like, this is where I thrive. So those have been the main coaches that I've worked with. And then I've learned from afar, being in a mastermind here and there, just how important it is to really have multiple streams of income, which has been something I feel like I've known for years. But again, when you're doing things and your blinders are on and you're building, sometimes you miss that part where it's like, keep expanding, keep expanding.
Yeah.
And so it's been nice to just kind of have that really register that this is important for you to have different streams. So
yeah, protect yourself and protect your family. I love that. And thank you for being vulnerable about your coach kind of giving you a push and being scared to launch, because obviously you've been successful for 12 years. And a lot of times I feel like, because we have such an issue with the comparison game, and social media has really added to that a lot of times women want to do things and they see another woman succeeding and they're like, oh, but she's been doing this for 12 years, right? Or, oh, but she sold her company. And it's like, we have moments of fear too that we have to push through, and we have to figure out where the courage comes from. And so I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because we're all humans and we all have to figure this out. And one other thing, reflecting back on your journey, what I love is you were talking about 12 years and how innovations have changed and the big game changer. But in essence, you haven't changed a ton of the core of what you do. You've just taken advantage of new innovations and trends, right? And so I think that's so important too, because sometimes people are intimidated because they're like, oh, I don't have all these ideas. I can't run a business. And it's like, there are some core things you have to do very well for your business. I was taught, there's the need to do and the nice to do, right? And if you do the need to do well consistently, you're going to be successful. And then the nice to do is maybe like the shiny objects or things you want to do or enhance your customer service, right? But like, when COVID hit, we all had to let go of the nice to do and get back to the need to do and figure out the basics. So is that a fair summary of your business journey? Or would you say, no, I've had to pivot actually a lot?
12 years, I would say there's been a couple pivots, but it's not been anything crazy. It's literally been social media that's been the challenge. Because when you're building a business mainly on social media and everyone's launching Facebook groups and adding you all in them, and you're 5 years in and everyone's getting annoyed and the water challenges aren't working, like that's where you're like, okay, this is the problem. And then Instagram pops up and everyone's like, oh, everybody's on Instagram. We all have to go over there. And you're kind of like, okay, I got to go figure this app out. And then they're like, no, they're on TikTok. And they're like, no, they're over here. Oh, they're back on Facebook. Like that's like the biggest pivot is just, where are your people and how do you connect? How do you get visible to them? Are you choosing to run ads? Are you choosing to do this organically and continue to use your time to drive your traffic in? If you're not, have you mastered the viral video? Do we care about the viral video? Like it's those things that have been the biggest, most challenging pivots, because the business stays the same. All business needs customers. They need happy customers. All of that stuff stays the same. But how are we marketing to them? What is marketing in 2023? Which is why I have a coach, because I'm like, what is going on? What is marketing in 2022? Right. And, it's so funny because as I've like navigated these pivots, it's always come back to, if you have a community, you're going to have people that are going to want to purchase. If you have the right offer and you're hitting those points that they really are struggling with and you can help them, like it's all going to work itself out. So that's the pivot. It's social media.
I love it. I know. We're like the puppet on the string, right? I got to go here. I got to go there. I totally hear you with that. So we've talked a lot about how you've persevered through your 12 years, how you got into what you're doing, how you're helping people now. What I'd love to hear, Lyndsi, is making this choice to start your own business 12 years ago and go on this journey. What blessings has that brought into your life?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm home and my kiddos it's summertime, so they're here. And it's just been a very different life than when I was driving to and from although they never really connected at the time because that lifestyle kind of ended long before the kiddos came along.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, just that time piece, the time flexibility, if I need to drop things and get to the kids, if something had to change schedules, and just having the ability to make choices if need be. It's been really, really cool. I've been able to travel places that I probably never would have.
Love it.
Things like that. I mean, there's just been like so many years of just meeting people everywhere I go in the United States, in other countries. I can literally go travel there and I'm bound to have can connect with someone I know already from social media. If I want to
That's awesome.
have lunch with them, like I know people everywhere, which is so cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Lots of blessings. So, Lyndsi, we're going to wrap up soon. I love to honor your time. But before we do, at the Vixen Gathering, we're all about helping women find abundance while still having joy, peace, and love in their life. And also tapping into our feminine superpowers. I like to call them our superpowers. So femininity looks different to all of us. That's what I love about having an amazing group of women is we're all different. We have different strengths and we think about things differently. So I'd love to ask you, could you share with our audience, and I ask every guest this, what does femininity look like to you? I guess, when do you feel you're most feminine, or how do you define that?
That's a cool question. I would say when I'm dressed. I come from the work from home, like health space where we're known for our leggings and our hair thrown up and no makeup. And I maybe over a year ago, not too long ago, that I was like, I should like get dressed and like actually wear something outside of the leggings and actually fix my face up a little bit. And so that in itself has helped me to feel more feminine because I'm like, I actually can shop and look for some outfits because for a while I was like, why? I'm home, So that,
It's so funny because I had a financial practice for 15 years. And even like since 2020, I was 2 days at home, 3 days in the office wearing a dress and heels, right? And so now I'm like, okay, I have this closet full of clothes. Like, where do I wear these things? Yeah. It's like, it's crazy how things change. So I love that. I love that you've rediscovered because it's making you feel good about yourself, right? It's really not about anyone else. It's just you having fun and discovering fashion again, maybe discovering makeup. And a lot of us girls, we like these things, like whatever people might think about it. That's what we like. So I love that. So another question is, if you had to put a color on your femininity, and I've heard everything from black to like teal blue to pink, what color would your femininity be?
Well, my color is always in the red.
I love it. Fearless, huh? Courageous.
Always in the red. Mm-hmm. I would have red lipstick on right now, but I don't have it with me.
Oh, no. Well, next time. How about that? We'll have you on with your red lipstick. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Lyndsi, it was such a pleasure to have you today. And it was an honor to hear about your journey and how you're helping other women. I'd love to invite you to share kind of what you have available right now for our audience, because I guarantee there are people listening like, I've got to get a Facebook group. Oh my gosh, let me try this. Or maybe I need a side hustle. So obviously we'll have your contact information in the show notes, but what do you have I think you have some special offers for our audience. So I'd love to give you time to share that information.
Yes, we have. So we have the Facebook group method, which is the core main course. Right next to that is if you already run a group and you've got a lot of what I've talked about kind of going, I do audit groups as well. I'll come in and check it out and spend time with you and help you tweak things that need tweaked. So those are the two different things. And then you can also get some one-on-one time with me.